The questions or things they thought I wish I'd asked this after the last session that you wanted me to discuss before we move forward today. What are you okay? The plan today is to go over some drills. Let me backtrack a little bit. What I've been doing for the last 6 or 7 weeks is I'm the coaching director out at Waverley now. So I go to Waverley's Friday night games and watch the coaches with their teams, and I go to the Sunday morning practice sessions and watch the practice sessions, what the coaches are doing there. And as we know, games have only been going for about the last 3 or 4 weeks or so on those Friday nights they've been practicing up until that point. So I guess in that time I've been getting a feel for what the coaches at that level are doing with their players, and have a little bit of current background, I guess, with some of the issues that you guys might be facing with your teams. And not that I don't know who's ahead in the big scheme of things, Waverley or Whittlesea, but I would imagine they're dealing with similar issues as far as the coaching goes. And what I've observed with the Waverley group when I watch the practice sessions is that there's a tendency to move towards the bigger picture of playing basketball without attention to the smaller details that to me make up the bigger picture. One coach sort of wanted me to watch their offense and see if I had some suggestions for their offense, and I watched for 10 or 15 minutes, and they were going up and down and doing all that. And in those 10 or 15 minutes, I think they had about 10 or 12 layup attempts in that time, and made one of them. Okay, and I said to the coach afterwards that the offense looked okay, except your players can't make a layup. So when I watched them running their practice sessions, though, they spend very little time on teaching their players how to shoot a layup. And the same can be said, I think, for the passing and catching of the players. I'm watching them go up and down, and players are throwing the ball and they're missing their target by going out of bounds, and people are throwing the ball and hitting the receiver on the ankles and these kind of things. And to me, they're the little things that make a difference between a team getting better rather than what's the offense that you're running. And it sort of reminded me of when I was the director of coaching in Victoria that the most common question I used to get asked was about, have you got an offense that you can suggest that I use for my team? And I get back to this, it's not the offense that you run, it's how well your players can pass, dribble, shoot, catch, and some of the basic footwork fundamentals of the game are the things that are going to determine whether or not your team is successful or not. Now, I could pick 5 NBL players and bring them in and play 5 ABA players, and usually the 5 NBL players, without a practice session, just throw them out there and let's play. The 5 NBL players would usually win, not because they have any offense, just because their players those players are usually more skilled. Does everyone understand the point I'm making there? So what I wanted to do tonight was show you some drills that I think are, I guess, some of the core drills that I would use with junior players, from under 12s up to under 18s, and most of the drills tonight are ones that I use with the NBL team. I was coaching in the NBL. I know that I've coached 12-year-olds, 11 and 12-year-olds in the last year, and I know that 11 and 12-year-olds can do it. And obviously I know anyone above that can do it as well. And some of the footwork aspects of what we're going to do tonight, I think, are really good things to teach kids. If you can get them to learn the footwork stuff that we're going to do tonight with relation to individual offense, it's a beautiful thing that you're teaching them, because it will be just instinctively a part of their game for the rest of their playing career. It's a bit like us learning how to walk. Once you've learned how to walk and how to, step aside if a bit, you know, like if you're walking along and see a pothole, you can step and go around the pothole. You know, walk backwards if there's a problem. Things that you instinctively do now and don't even think about. There's things like that that you can teach a kid on a basketball court at the age of 11 or 12 that they will just have for the rest of their basketball career and will be really valuable things for them to learn. Okay, so that's the emphasis for me tonight, is to show you some fundamental things to teach the kids. How old are they? It's a girls group tonight.
Girls and boys group.
Boys group.
Yep.
How old are they?
16. It's under 16s, but majority bottom age from what I.
Okay, so 14-year-olds, maybe 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
That's a good group. So what I want to do is just, before we head out there, is I just want to briefly explain to you the drills that I'm going to use, so that when we go down, you'll have an idea of what we're going to do. The first one is called the Knight Bremer drill. It's a bit of a combination of a drill that I saw with Bob Knight in America, who's one of the famous college coaches over there, and an old guy who used to coach out here named Jay Bremner. I don't know if anyone else is old enough, you guys got to be old enough, you're in my ballpark, to remember Jay Bremner, but Jay was a bit of a rebel in the coaching ranks here in Victoria for a few years, and he was really the first coach in Australia to introduce the concept of working individually with players, you know, one-on-one. He used to be down in Albert Park all the time working out with players, and the stuff that he did kind of spread throughout the senior coaching community. Remember when I started coaching with Brian Gorgie at the Spectres in '88, we were, you know, we had a big focus on individual development as well, and that was kind of Jay's influence that got us doing that. But anyway, so the drills are kind of like a combination, and do we have a whiteboard marker?
Peter Newman.
Or a texter or something?
Has got one.
Kindly let us here.
There's not one on the. No.
No. It's just a biro. I'll write on this in here.
It'll be a long one.
Good, too well.
Well, that was when we played in
This is from the last time I was here. This stuff that's written up here now. So that's how often this whiteboard gets used.
Do you want a bubble?
You got one of those too? Amazing.
Yeah, he's prepared.
Okay. Now what I'm going to do initially is just position the players around the key. I don't know how many we're going to have to work with out there.
It should be good 15 to 18 players.
Okay. I'll see a pretty large group. Is just put them in lines on the corner of the key, and we're just going to start off with one ball. And what we're going to do is pass the ball to our right and then run to the end of that line. Okay. So that player will then pass it to the right. The next player will pass it to the right. And to start off, I'm just going to let the kids go ahead and do that. Then the first thing I'm going to introduce them is to get down in a stance while they're waiting to receive the ball. Okay, you'll probably watch them first off. They'll just be all standing straight-legged and not really paying much attention to how they're standing and how they're moving. And then the next thing I'll get them to do is to think about when the ball, you know, being in a basketball stance with their knees bent, when the ball's coming from their left, stepping towards the ball with their left foot, and then stepping towards the person they're passing it to with their right foot. Okay, so just this left, right, or right, left action. And this action here, being able to do this, is a real foundation to some of the body movement fundamentals that are crucial to basketball. Like you think about playing defense, it's that pushing and stepping action that allows you to play defense. Think about cutting. I pass and I want to make a quick cut. It's that pushing and stepping action. When you're dribbling the basketball and you want to make a crossover dribble, same sort of thing, that pushing and stepping action. So sort of getting the kids thinking about push and step, and playing with their feet apart. So we'll introduce stance and that pushing and stepping. Also talk about the importance of throwing the ball hard. I think I spoke about that last time. I think that's something that's not really coached that well, is getting the ball quickly to the receiver rather than throwing lob passes. And then we're going to make, as we go along, going to make the drill a little bit harder by calling out change. So we're going to start off passing it to the right and going around a square, and when I call that change, the next person to catch it, instead of passing to their right, is going to pass the ball back to their left. Okay, so we just reverse direction. And then to make it harder again, we're going to add 2 basketballs. So we'll start with 1 ball here, and we'll say go. So this one will be passing to his right, he'll be passing to his right, and we'll have 2 balls going around. So they'll have less time to stand there and talk and think about what's happening. And we're going to gradually build up to a point where we have 4 basketballs going. So every person in the front line will have a ball, and as they pass it, they'll be passing obviously to the second person in line. And again, that creates a little bit of confusion. When I'm every time I call out change, they've got a reverse direction. Everyone's got to remember to change. And I have 3 other things that I'll call out. All right. 1 is when we just pass it and catch it. 2 is when we pass it. Say I was passing the ball to Simon here. Pass it. He'd flip it back to me, and then I flip it back to him, and then I run past him. And then he does the same thing. So it's pass, get it back, and then sort of hand it off or flip it up again. We call that 2. And then 3 is when we catch it, just take 1 hard dribble and then pass it. Okay, so as these balls are flying around, I'll be calling out change, 1, 2, or 3, and the players have to react to those calls. Okay, and what it makes them do is it makes them communicate with each other, because what you find in those groups, you'll have some kids who will get really confused, and some kids who will pick it up, as you know from coaching kids. Some will pick it up quick, and some don't pick it up quick. And the good thing to coach in that is the fact that those kids who do pick it up quick have to help those ones who don't pick it up quick. Okay, by calling it out and making sure, like if I, for John, I say, hey, and I call out 2, I'd say that 2, make sure you catch it and pass it, or 3, make sure you take a bounce with it. Like it creates communication amongst the group, which is kind of like a foundation for a good team when they're all talking and helping each other out. Okay, so balls will be moving rapidly. There should be a lot of talk, and the players have to really think about what's going on. So I think that's a great drill. I used to do that drill just about almost every practice session with my NBL team. It's a great warm-up drill as well, because usually kids come into practice, they're in a coma for the first 15 minutes or so sleeping. Whereas this drill, if you're sort of in a coma, you're going to get hit in the head with a ball, and so it gets the brain clicking over straight away as well. Okay, so that's the first drill we're going to do. Second one is a 5-man weave, which is a pretty basic drill, but to me it's kind of like the way I run it, or the way I think it should be ran. It's kind of like a foundation for what you're trying to do out there on the basketball court. When you play, you're trying to have 5 players working together to get the ball up the court and make a basket. Okay, so in this, the way we're going to do it is we're going to allow the players only 3 passes to get the ball up the court, and the ball isn't allowed to hit the ground, and they're not allowed to miss a layup. Okay, we're going to give the group, depending on how many, if we've got 15 there, we'll have 3 groups of 5. We're going to give them some goals about how many they can make in a row doing that. Now, 5-man weave. I'm assuming everyone here knows what a 5-man weave is. Does everyone know what a 5-man weave is? Yep. Alright, now, one thing that I think isn't coached very well on a 5-man weave is this. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coming down the court, alright? If 2 is the one who's catching the 3rd pass, so say 1's passed to 2, and 2's caught it in stride and taken their 2 steps and shooting the layup, okay? Who should rebound the ball? 4? That's right, 4 should rebound the ball, okay? 4 comes in and rebounds the ball. 2 circles underneath and becomes the inside player on the other side of the court, so you'll have 5, 2, 4 rebounds the ball, so they're underneath. 3 becomes the new inside player here, and 1 becomes the outside player going back. Does everyone see that? Okay, now that's the correct way to rotate when they go down and come back again. Okay, that's how they should rotate. So it's kind of like, now rarely is that insisted on by the coach though. Usually the coach says, all right, 5-man weave, they go there and anybody rebounds the ball, they get all missed, you know, the balance isn't there. But this is kind of like, this gets them thinking about how to, responsibilities, rotations, it gets them talking on the rebound, and it's kind of like what happens within your offense. Okay, there's a little bit of a pattern there that they have to stick to, and they have to make the shot. By insisting the ball's not allowed to hit the ground as well, they've got to make good passes, and they've got to grab that ball out of the net as well. So if I was going down and back, okay, that's how we'd finish here. Now, obviously, four has got the ball, and his first pass, as he's come from this way, would be to 3. And then as they're going down the court, his next pass would be to 2, and 1 would be the one shooting the layup down the other end if we just have 3 passes. Okay? So if 1 was shooting it down the other end, that would make 5 the rebounder. So all 5 players are involved in touching the ball at least once in that play, even though we're just saying 3 passes. Does everyone see that? Okay, so now if I just had 10 players at practice, the way I would do a 5-man weave is I'd have 2 groups of 5, and I'd have the first group have to go up and back again. Okay, making sure they rotated that way when they got to the other end. And they went up and back, and the next group would go up and back. Okay, so I might do that. If we've got more than 10 players, I might just sit some down and do it. And then after they've gone up and back, and the next group's gone up and back, then I'll make them go twice at that. So up and back, up and back. So now they've got to make 4 layups. Okay, then the next group would come on, and they've got to go up and back, up and back. Now, you need to make adjustments for the age of your players. Like for under 12s, 3 passes might be a bit hard for them to get up there. They might be able to get up there in 3. You might say 4 passes for under 12s. With these kids tonight, I'm going to try and see if they can do it with 3 passes, and we'll see how they go. With my NBL team, we would go up and back once, then the other group would go up and back once, then we'd go twice, next group twice, then we'd go 3 times, next group 3 times, then we'd go 4 times, then we'd go up to 5, and then we'd come back down again, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, and they were knackered by the end of that. All right, these are guys who are professional athletes who are in pretty good shape. Okay, so it's pretty tough, and it becomes tougher if you miss a layup, all right, or the ball hits the ground, because that sends you back to 0. Okay, so you can get to 4, you know, making the foot, guy misses a layup, back to 0, start again, and that group would have to start all over again. Okay, so it's quite challenging, and it puts there's a little bit of peer pressure there on kids who aren't concentrating because they're throwing crappy passes or they're missing their layups. You know, I'd insist on a left-hand layup from the left-hand side, right? So the little things that stop the group from achieving its goal of either 2 in a row or 4 in a row, there's a little bit of peer pressure comes on as well. But what I like about it is it involves 5 players going up the court working together. And what you also find, particularly with the smaller kids, is there's a lot of discrepancies in the skill level of the kids sometimes. Like number 1 might be just an absolute, you know, gun of a player. Number 5 might be really raw. Okay, so when they're throwing to number 5, they need to make sure they're throwing a pass that they can catch. Okay, so that if they're heading down that way, and say 4's trying to pass it to 2, 2 can run like this if 4's got it and get the ball past them, or 2 can run like this and get the ball past them, can't they? So one is a shorter pass, more likely to get there. One is a longer pass, which is a bit more dicey. So they've got to start thinking about things like that, about valuing the ball, making adjustments for each other, and making sure that they work together as a group to get the thing in at the other end. Okay, so that's what we'll do in that weave there. The next thing that we're going to do, just have a drink of water here for a second. Any questions on the Brendan drill or the 5-man weave?
Actually, I had a quick question on the 5-man weave. A lot of coaches will not want to have a drill for more than 7 to 10 minutes going. If one of your players, as they were coming back down through, had messed up and had to go back and start again, how long would you keep that drill going for? You know, how long would that drill actually take? If
you've got 10 players and you're going up to 5 and 5, and again, I wouldn't think only. I think under 18s probably the only ones are going up, capable of going up to 5 and back, and then they'll be they'll be exhausted from that. We used to be able to go up to 5 and back again in 10 minutes. You know, so I would, with a young team, I'd do it for 6 minutes or so, 5 or 6 minutes.
Yep.
It'll probably take us longer tonight because we're going to coach, and you know, it's like a new thing probably for them, and I'll be talking to you guys as we're going along. But I wouldn't do it for much longer than that.
Yep, fair enough.
And if you've got 8 players in your group, you might, like a 4-man weave is exactly the same as a 3-man weave and a 5-man weave, except on one side you've only got 1 player. Okay, so you can do 4-man weaves, you can do 3-man weaves, and again, you can either do it where you have, you know, say 3 groups of 5. First group goes, when they cross the centre line, the next group goes, and they all finish at the other end, and then you've made 3 layups in a row. Turn around and come back again, 4, 5 and 6 in a row. So you can have it that way where all the groups are going each time, or you can have it where one group goes up and back and then the next group goes up and back. Okay, so either way is how I do it. The next thing we're going to do is layups, okay, because it's, you know, everybody does layups kind of as a warm-up, but I rarely see drills where coaches are teaching their players different types of layups and how to make a layup. Okay, and I think I emphasised last time I was here about the need to make sure that players accelerate into the layup. Okay, with players, I think too often they really stride out and accelerate as they're going in, but when they get there, their last 2 steps are like slow down steps. Okay, whereas those last 2 steps, I think an important thing to teach them is to those last 2 steps to be big, long strides into the shot. Okay, because as they go up to a higher and higher level, the defence are going to keep chasing them, and those 2 strides and that long jump is quite often the difference between getting the shot off or getting the thing blocked. So big long strides into the shot and putting it up soft off the backboard. We're going to look at a variety of different kinds of layups. The first one is we're just going to have them one after the other go in and shoot a right-handed layup, then out to the other side of the floor, come in and shoot a left-handed layup. And I'll be very surprised if they're all good at shooting left-handed layups. Okay, particularly the under 14s. Does anyone coach these kids that we're using tonight?
Yeah.
Can they shoot left-handed layups?
No, I don't think so. Some can, can't they? Some can. Don't know if they do it like
We'll
really
see.
great, but some try anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and trying is an important thing. We need to emphasise to them to try.
They do. I accept them missing it for now
Yeah.
if they try to do it with their left hand.
Yep. I think that's something that needs to be incorporated into every practice session. The next layup we're going to do is a reverse layup, where they're just going to go underneath the basket and put it off the backboard. Right hand and left hand reverse layups. Then we're going to do what I call a long jump into a stride stop, into a jump stop, where they're going to dribble in, and I'll try to demonstrate. So a normal layup would be 1, 2, lay it up with the right hand. What we're going to have them do is dribble in and go 1, 2, and then up. Alright, but the emphasis is on making a long jump rather than just coming to a little jump stop. Okay? So a long jump into the layup, again right and left hand side. The next one is going to be what I call a side step into the layup. So now, dribbling towards the basket here, we're going to go 1, 2 into the shot. Okay, so step right foot on the left foot, and then we'll step left foot on the right foot, and we're going to shoot it left-handed in that situation. So we've got a side step into the shot. The next one will be a what's called a runner, which is predominantly used by the perimeter guys because they're the ones who need to shoot it the most. But it's the same footwork as a normal layup except from further out. Okay, so whereas a player would normally, if this is a key way here, would normally say take their first step here and their second step there into the shot. With a runner, it's normally first step, second step. So they're dribbling in 1, 2 and pulling it up short, but still and putting the ball up nice and high off the backboard. It's the sort of shot that a guard would use when there's a big guy standing on the split line. They're dribbling in, and the big guy's coming across to block it, so they're going to pull up short and shoot the ball nice and high off the glass. Okay, so that's a runner. The next one will be a reverse spin into a layup. So if I'm dribbling in on my right hand towards this spot here, okay, so I'm dribbling in like this to here, defense cuts me off, so I'm going to dribble in, reverse spin, left-handed layup from the right-hand side. Okay, again, you'll see that. And then the last one we'll do is a double pump, where they're going to dribble in, jump, pump it, and then shoot it. Okay, like so thing where they jump into a defender, take the contact, and then shoot it on the way down. If you watch Gavossi Franklin play, he's kind of like the king of that. Dribbles at those big guys, jumps up and rests on their chest, and then on the way down he shoots the shot. And there's probably other varieties. You know, they're the ones that I use the most often. But I'm always surprised at how bad most players are at doing that. You know, but all those layups are in the repertoire of the good players. Okay, and I think that is from a coaching point of view, we sometimes again get caught up in the big picture, whereas our players aren't really good at shooting layups. Like I used to do all those layups with the NBL team, and a lot of my guys couldn't make some of the layups that we were trying. Okay, particularly like left-handed reverse layups, that reverse spin into a left-handed shot. Whereas I know under 12s can do it if you teach them to do it. Okay, that's the important thing there. Then we're going to do some 3-on-2 and a 2-on-1 fast break stuff, just to talk about keeping the court spread in a 3-on-2. We'll talk about the offensive players getting the floor spread. These players on the wing, when they hit the foul line extended, starting to cut straight towards the basket. They have a tendency to keep running down towards the baseline. You know, think about when we talked about the hot spots last time, trying to get to those hot spots, and how the two players on defense need to defend a 3-on-2 fast break, because 3-on-2 happens a lot in junior basketball. And then we'll go back into a 2-on-1 fast break, and again talk about when there's just two of them, the importance of recognising that there's two of them, and taking the ball a bit wider so that you get some spacing, again, which makes it a bit harder on the defence. The closer those two are together, the easier it is for the defender. And we'll talk about the best way of defending the 2-on-1 as well. Okay? So just some fast break stuff. And then the next one is the Pete Newell footwork, which from an offensive point of view I think is something that's really valuable to teach kids. We're going to do this drill from this sort of formation here. We have two lines out here of all the kids, two lines. Second player on the line is going to have a ball. This player's just going to cut down to inside the key here, and then make a forward lead. Okay, lead out to catch the ball. And we're going to work to start off on squaring to the basket on their inside foot. So on this side of the court, as they catch it, they're going to square to the basket with their right foot and just turn and face the basket in a triple threat stance, and then they're going to shoot it. On the other side, they'll be squaring to the basket on their left foot. And the sequence we're going to go through is from squaring to the basket, we're going to go to a crossover step, one bounce jump shot, okay, which is this. So I've got the ball here, and I want to go one bounce to my left, and my left foot's my pivot foot. The footwork is to go bang, right, left, up and shoot it. Okay, and I guarantee you most of those kids out there are going to go right, left, right, stop and shoot. Okay, which to me is too many steps. It's not travel, depending on when they pick it up, but that's what they'll do. But you watch the good players, and they go one bounce up and shoot it. So I want to try and set a foundation for that. And then we'll go one bounce to the right. Now because it's not a crossover step, it's a strong side step, the footwork will be right, left, right, up and shoot it. Okay? So that's one bounce to the left, one bounce to the right, and then the next thing will be a step back in both directions. So now before we went bounce, 1, 2, the step back will be bounce, 1, 2, back to shoot. Okay? So even though you land on 2 feet, that still only counts as a 1. Okay, if I go here, like that, that's a 3 count, which might be called as travel.
Give him a ball. You do that.
Sorry?
Let's give you a ball.
Have we got a ball with us?
No, we gave him the balls.
Imagine. Okay, so step back is bounce.
Ah, you bounce, but you put the ball on grab with it.
Yeah, you bounce at one, take 1 bounce.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a step back going to the left, a step back going to the right. Again, before we went bounce and pick it up, 1, 2. Okay, now we'll go bounce, 1, 2. Okay, so always pushing back off the foot closest to the basket. Okay, left foot going this way, right foot going, when my left foot is my pivot foot. Okay, and the next one we'll teach them will be a head and shoulder fake and a drive. So now they'll go bounce, step back, keep their dribble alive, and then drive in and lay it up. Okay? And then we'll go to the other side. Bounce, keep the dribble alive, step back with the basket, and then drive it on, so like a head and shoulder fake. Okay? So they're going to have the ability to go left or right. Doesn't matter which foot is going to be their pivot foot, because they'll be doing the same thing from either side. 1 bounce jumper that way, 1 bounce jumper that way, which also can lead into a layup that way or a layup that way. Step back going left, step back going right. Head and shoulder fake going left, head and shoulder fake going right. All those into layups. Okay? So that's the foundation. To me, I'll be really surprised if any of those kids out there can do that. Do you reckon they can do those? Okay. Now, they are capable of doing it. They are capable of doing it. My 11-year-olds I had in Townsville could all do that without any problems. And it wasn't because I spent hours on it. I spent what I thought was an appropriate amount of time at each practice session on it, say 10 or 15 minutes, because I think it's, again, particularly the young kids, once they have it, you don't have to do it, you don't have to show them ever again, because this becomes how they naturally move on a basketball court then. Okay? So we tend to always take longer when we're doing that. I've allowed 15 minutes, we'll see how we go. And then the last thing we're going to do is the shell drill. Okay, just working on some basic defensive floor positioning and some basic defensive principles. So in the shell drill, we'll have 4 offensive players and 4, so this player here's got the ball, and 4 players on defense, and other players standing out of bounds waiting for there to go. Okay, and we're just going to work to start off with on our stance and position on the ball and where they should be off the ball, and depending on how good they are, we'll progress through a few stages of just keeping the offense on their position on the court, to going over some help and recover principles as well. Okay, so that's the plan. I'll be really surprised if I'm able to stick to the times that I've allocated for everything. But to me, they're all drills that I think are important drills, and most of them are drills that I would incorporate into most of my practice sessions with young kids. And in particular, the null footwork stuff, I think, is something that you can never spend too much time on with your kids, until you're sure your kids can do it. I would stick with it as far as your practice sessions go. The other thing I was going to say, there's 2 types of. When I was in India teaching those guys, boy, they're a long way behind, believe me. There's 2 kinds of leads that we normally teach in coaching, because this is a big aspect of your offense, getting the ball down the court and being able to pass it to this player here in a position where they can play from. Okay, and it makes a big difference to your offense, no matter what your offense is. If you just run a no offense, it makes, or compared to a complicated. If this player can catch the ball about level with the foul line, about on the 3-point line, because they've got a good amount of space to drive to the basket. They've got a relatively short pass to any players posting up inside here. and they've got a good angle to pass the ball back that way. That makes a big difference compared to catching it out here, okay, where you've got a much longer pass into here, and the angles affected makes it easier for the defence. This pass here is more a straight pass now, which is a more dicier pass than a pass that's out. Much further away from the basket to attack the basket. So starting your offence, or getting that first entry pass into your offence in the right spot is an important thing. Now, the way we normally teach is for the kids to make a V-cut, in and out. You know, they might start down here, take their man in, step over them, lead out and catch the ball out there. All right, now, in a V-cut, on that side of the floor, the normal footwork will be to stop left, right and square to the basket. Okay? What I really found with the kids in India, and it might be easier with some of your kids, is to teach them to make an L cut like that, where they cut up the laneway and then step out to receive the ball. Okay, so if you imagine the ball's coming from this way and I want to lead out to get it, here's my V cut going out like this, catching and square into the basket. On an L cut, you walk your defender up the laneway and then lead straight out and catch it. Now your footwork is usually to stop on your outside foot and face the basket. Okay, it's predominantly, like it's pretty well how the NBA teams start their offences now is with an L cut. Now, so there are times when you're on that right hand side and your left foot will be your pivot foot. If you've made an L cut, your right foot would be your pivot foot. But if you've practiced all these moves with either foot, it doesn't matter. Okay? Being able to make the right cut is important, and just as important is the players being able to play with either foot as their pivot foot. Okay, so we're going to just stick with V cuts tonight. But if you're having trouble with your kids, I'd suggest having a look at teaching them L cuts to make their forward leads. Okay, and I found with the kids in India, even though they weren't really kids, they were like, you know, some of them were 22 or 23 years old, is that they really grasped the L cut much easier than they did the V cut. And that was something that really worked for them. Okay, any questions on any of that? Is it going to be quiet where we are? Have we got games and stuff going on next door?
There will be a game going on the other court, yeah.
Alright. So if I can get you guys to sort of sit all pretty close to each other, and I'll try and so when I've got something I need to say to you, that I can come over and you guys are going to be able to hear me all right. And I'll try and get through these drills as I've explained them, and hopefully we'll see the things that I've predicted might happen, will happen. So we've got 1/4 past, we're going to start then?
Yeah.
So if you want to grab a drink, back to the toilet first. Which quarter are we on?